Hey guys, what's going on? I just want to do a quick video today to talk to you a little bit about errata and why I think it's terrible. So if you're not familiar with errata, errata is basically a wordings changed on either rules or a card or a product of a game that a company will come out with, like Fantasy Flight, for example. And there have been some recent big changes with Armada. X-Wing has seen numerous waves of errata changes. And one of the problems that this leaves behind is now you have a whole bunch of cards that maybe a new player will go ahead and buy this expansion and get the cards and say, oh, well, this card does this. Oh, this card has Emperor Palpatine in it. And he says I can change a die anytime I want, once per round. Cool. And then that player decides, oh, you know what, I feel like going to a tournament. And then they show up and all of a sudden everybody's like, no, dude, that's not how it works. And didn't you read the errata or didn't you read the FAQ? And like a lot of people who aren't that completely, deep into the game aren't going to know these things. And that's a real problem. And I personally hate it. The other problem that it creates is for veteran players who've been playing forever and have every product, now you have to keep a mental track of which cards are no good, which cards are new and fixed, because they don't always come out with replacement cards. So Imperial Assault had a really, really big errata, and it was one of the first major erratas from FFG, and where they changed a whole bunch of stuff in the core set. And now this is big because everybody who plays the game has to have the core set. So they changed stuff that every single person has. They changed the officers, they changed Royal Guards, then they changed a couple of stuff from the first wave of expansions. And so this was a really big deal. And now they did a good job of putting out tournament promos that were rewordings and the clarifications of the errata, but it's a real problem because some people had already bought 3 core sets just to get the Royal Guard, which was exclusive to the core set, or the officers to be able to come up with this perfect build. And then after people have already dumped $300-$500 into buying lots of core sets or maybe trading to get the stuff that they need, then they errata it and change it and make it all useless. So that's also a kind of a big problem. It seems to me that if something gets errated very hardcore to make it almost useless, that it would be awfully nice from a consumer's point of view if you could get a refund. However, that's never going to be the case, so don't even get your hopes up for that. But that it is kind of a bummer for that. But I really just hate having to keep track of, okay, which one is good, which one is Daredevil, which one's the new one? Did they come up with a reprint of that or whatever? So one of the things that I've done is I put a section up on Crabbok.com that has errata, so if you don't want to dig through all the FAQs, you can just look. I only have X-Wing and Armada up there right now. And I'm going to try to keep it updated. I'm going to put links to the FAQs because the FAQ is going to be the definitive source. So that's definitely where you should check. If for some reason you don't want to do that, you can also just check out the listing I have there. I'm going to try to have at least pictures of all of the new cards. And as they put out official images of the new reprinted cards, I'm going to try to post those there too. So you can just download them if you wanted to print your own out and things like that. But yeah, so it's kind of a big problem. And I understand why they do it. They do it for balance purposes. Balance is important. You don't want things running away. Like in Armada, we had a lot of, I guess the Riken list is basically, and Riken on a flotilla and flying away, kind of ran away with the meta, and everybody was complaining. I personally didn't see a problem with it. I still think I could take. I've never seen anybody try to do that against me, so I don't know. But I don't think, based on the way I play, I don't think it would be that much of a problem. Either way, I understand that they saw a balance issue, they changed it. All the FAQ changes don't really affect me very much because the type of lists I like to play don't usually exploit any of those mechanics, so I was pretty much unaffected. With the exception of the day they put out the FAQ, I was actually going to try a Rhymer Ball, and so I was going to actually experiment with some of the broken stuff, and that's the day they announced that it was no longer cool to do that. So no problem. Either way, I would prefer, instead of doing an errata for something, I would prefer they just basically come up with new mechanics and fix problems by proxy. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to use an Armada example. So Riken, if you're not familiar with Armada, General Riken was a commander that makes all of your ships, basically when they die, they stay on the board until the end of turn. So if you're familiar with X-Wing, kind of like Fel's Wrath, turns every ship into Fel's Wrath. So, and people could say, and it also works for unique squadrons also. So basically almost all of your stuff on the board, if they take it out, it's like, okay, we still get to fire with everything. And it was a way to set up a really, to build you could build a spider web around somebody and just, all right, you can try and blow your way out of here, but you're not, because and then you can't move in Armada, you can't, you could just bump and get stuck, so you can't, you can get trapped pretty easily. And so, and also and there was a pretty nasty combination with Biggs and squadron stuff with Armada as well. So there was that. There was also this problem of people putting their commander on a flotilla and calling it a lifeboat and just flying it around the edges of the board. And so, actually, I'm going to use that one as an example. I would prefer more creative solutions that don't change the product out there for your newer players. If they do a rules errata, that's not as bad, because then that's the official rules, and rules are going to have to be updated periodically anyway, because at least you're not changing the printed card. But even better, I would prefer them to come out with new stuff that is a bonus. And this would lean a little bit in the direction of power creep. But suppose they came out with a generic title, or maybe a modification, or some kind of card, and let's go with a title for right now, that says if your commander is on this ship, if this is your flagship, you get, whenever you attack, you get to add 2 dice of any color to your attack pool, and at the start of the game, you get to add 2 shields anywhere not to exceed 6 in any one hull zone, and increase your hull by 1. Right? We'll call it a 5-point title or something like that, which would make a ship absolutely amazing. And so you would want, and now granted, I haven't balanced that out, but something like that. So basically an upgrade that says, wow, I really want to put my commander on the Star Destroyer or on the big ship. I want to bring my commander into battle, because when I bring him into battle, I get a huge boost. And that would be a way to stop people from putting their commanders on the lifeboat while still technically allowing it. And you'd be like, okay, well, it's your funeral. You want to put him on there and forego all these cool new benefits, then by all means do that. And I think that would be a more preferable way, because now you don't impact the people who don't know what the errata is, or the people who don't even know that there's a thing called an FAQ. There's a lot of players who are like new and getting into these games that aren't experienced gamers, and because they like the minis and they like the models and they like Star Wars and they like all these, it's got a lot of curb appeal. You see somebody playing this game and you can't help stop but notice. And that goes for X-Wing and Armada and Imperial Assault, and even Rune Wars, any of these, any cool miniatures game, Warhammer, the same thing. Any of the old Wizards of the Coast miniatures games, when people see you playing these games, they stop and take notice. So not everybody who's going to be attracted to these games are just hardcore gamers who know to go out and look for FAQs. Anybody can get into this game, and a lot of these people don't even think let's go to the developer's website and find out what the latest rules errata is. Those of us who have been playing games for a long time know to do so. Those of us who create an account on the forums and talk on Reddit or on other private forums or whatever about these games and get engaged in them, we know to do these sort of things. But it becomes a real burden when you're playing with a new player and they are all excited because they brought this list and they have Palpatine and a shuttle or whatever, and and now I'm jumping towards X-Wing, and they're like, oh, and you have to be the one to tell them, I'm sorry, kid, it doesn't work like that. And I've seen people get a little upset, not mad at me, but upset that the list they had put so much work into planning on and testing is now not legal for a tournament, or at least not going to work the way they thought it was going to work. And so that's a real bummer, and I really don't like it. I would rather them do more creative solutions designed to counter stuff like that. Making your flagship more powerful if it has your commander on it, I think is a great way to do that. And it doesn't have to be through rules. That can be through just a card that comes out in another expansion. As far as everything else, I haven't really thought of a specific way to make it work better, like the Zombie Biggs thing with Riken. I don't necessarily have a specific thing in mind for that, but I think, that could very easily be done with kind of like the way the Raider and Flechette torpedoes can just shut down an entire blob of squadrons. Maybe there's more stuff like that without necessarily being too powerful. Maybe every ship in your firing arc that has escort takes a damage after you do a squadron attack, and you can do that once per round or something like that. But the thing is, you have to look at a solution like that outside of the problem. Okay, well, suppose somebody isn't doing this and they're just swarming you with X-Wings. is that going to be now broken? You know, and maybe you don't want people to swarm you with X-Wings, but maybe you're looking at people who have the core set. So there's a whole lot of things to consider, and I realize that I'm not the master of game balance. So this is just my opinion, but I'd love to hear your opinion. What do you think they should have done differently? Do you think doing a hard errata in cases like Armada and X-Wing and Imperial Assault are a wise move? Do you think there's a better way going forward? Do you think they have to do this because of a lack of playtesting? Do you think they need to expand playtesting? And if so, do you think they should elicit the feedback of a broader playtesting base to basically come up with alternative solutions as opposed to errata? Because to me, errata is the worst case scenario. The only time it's okay to errata something is when a card comes out and it's got a word misspelled. I think the Leia crew card originally had a misspelling on it. And so yes, you can errata that and fix the misspelling, but don't change the way it works. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and click the little bell for alerts so you can find out when I'm giving cool things away, like the Ray Speeder Pop, and I might even have some X-Wing Wave 11 stuff coming up next month to give away to all you guys. And that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a comment and a +1 or a thumbs up. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.